Greetings, and welcome to the Broken Neck Chronicles. This is a little different for me, different content-wise, but then, week and a half ago, I was having troubles, didn't know what was going on. I was walking around with what basically amounts to a broken neck. I've since been in and had surgery to fix the problem so that I wouldn't die from it or get permanently paralyzed. So I wanted to do some kind of blog or vlog. I don't want to show you visuals of what things look like right now. I'm going to stay off that side of the camera and just do this in audio. But I wanted to relate what happened, all the procedures I went through, and get you caught up to where I am today. And then from this point forward, it'll be, not so much a daily blog, but every couple of days, every few days, something like that, when things develop, and track my improvements and things like that. So that's the plan. Let's talk about what happened. It turns out that this has been a long-term problem. So it's not one particular event that caused me to, quote, break my neck. And before you wonder, I'm using that in the more generalistic sense that my neck was damaged and could not repair itself. So it's broken in that sense. It wasn't severed. I'm still able to walk around, though, with issues. I'm going to get back to the computer and be able to do some of my design work. And so there's really good news there. All of this is going to come back together, but it's going to take a little time. So August 13th, just to give you a timeline here, I was on vacation with the family. First night of the vacation, I'm headed down the stairs to go to the bedroom that I was going to be sleeping in, and somehow I missed a step and landed on the landing of the stairway. Very unpleasant. Briefly could not move my arms or legs. Eventually regained some control. Probably should have gone right to the ER then. Did not. Stuck it out with the family. Had a good vacation, albeit not. I was in good spirits. So I was not feeling bad about it, except I knew I was injured. We came home, and I was able to get stuff done. I was going back through the housework and getting things done, and it seemed okay, but I was still in a fair bit of pain. Over the next couple of weeks, things got worse slowly. I had an appointment scheduled with my primary. So I saw her, and she said, okay, well, let's order up a bunch of tests and figure out. She was a little incredulous that I didn't go right to ER, and now I am, kind of. So if you have a massive spill like I had, don't mess around. Just go to the ER. They might discover something. I got fortunate. But saw her. She said, let's do a bunch of tests. So I got all sorts of x-rays and MRIs and CT scans, and they weren't finding much. Then there was another set of MRIs that we ultimately did on my back, on my upper back and my lower back. And I hadn't heard the results yet, but by the time I got back to my doctor, she had the report, and she said, okay, I've got these reports here. These came back clean, no problem. Your lower back is a little compromised, but not too bad. But your upper back, it appears that there's compression in the spine. And I didn't completely understand what that meant, and we tried to look it up and whatever, but she said, I think it's best that you go to the ER right now. And that right there may have saved my life. So credit to my doctor. Thank you so much for that. We went to the ER, and they started running their battery of tests that they always have to run just to make sure they don't miss something. And they said, okay, well, where's the imaging from the MRI? And I didn't have the imaging. Turns out if you get an MRI, you should probably get a hold of the imaging, which they'll usually give you on like a burned CD or DVD or something like that, or maybe a thumb drive. That should be part of the service. I think it was part of the service. I don't know what happened. Either way, the folks in the ER were looking at things and they said, okay, we should get you an MRI. Problem is, we don't have an MRI in the ER. So they had to figure things out, and it turns out the ER is attached to a hospital. The hospital has an MRI. Eventually, they got me over to that MRI, took their own imaging, and came back and escorted me back into the back of the ER, got me a room there so I could settle while they're figuring things out. And then they called a neurosurgeon, and the neurosurgeon's first thing was put him in a C-collar, keep him as still as you can. Turns out I had a slip disc between C4 and C5. That slip disc was then pressing up against the bundle of nerves that run down the spine, and that explained the discomfort I had in my arms. It might have explained some of my weird, wonky walking, though that may have been a separate issue, and we'll address that in a moment. But that's kind of where I was on all of that. So from there, they managed to get me up into the neurological unit, got me a bed, and that's when the neurosurgeon came in, eventually. The nurses were great. I have to keep repeating that because everybody in the staff there was just amazing. They took such good care of me. The neurosurgeon came in and he said, okay, here's the situation. You've got a compression. You've got a disc that slipped over. You got two choices. You can stay in the hospital and wait for us to get an appointment in the operating room so we can do the operation. Or we can kick you loose with the brace, send you home. It's not so urgent that you have to do it right now, but odds are if we send you home, the insurance company is going to see that as, oh, it must not be that urgent, and they could delay the decision to pay for the operation. And I said, well, that doesn't sound very good. It could be a few weeks before I get back to the hospital, and who knows if I fall again in that time. So I said, let's go for it now. I'll stay in the hospital. Even he said maybe it was like Wednesday. He said maybe I can get you in on Friday. If not, worst case, you'll have to stay through and we'll go on Monday. All things considered, staying from Wednesday to Friday is a big nothing. I mean, free food, well, I got fed, I had a TV, I could entertain myself, and then it was just a matter of just sleeping between things and keeping my neck still. So it turns out that Friday there was an opening. He was able to go in. They go in through the front of the neck, which is a little unusual until you kind of understand what they're doing. I think the whole point is they want to keep you on your back because you're more stable lying on your back than on your stomach. So they do that. They go in through the neck, through the front, and they sort of part the ways. They go between your vocal cords and whatever they got to go through to get the tools back there to be able to remove the old disc, put in a replacement disc, and then put in some interlocking screws to hold the vertebrae together and keep the disc where it should be. So I'll spare you any more gory details than that. That's what they did. And I came out of the OR a few hours later with a nifty little scar and a story to tell. The next couple of days were just basically watching me and making sure that nothing goes wrong. They were aware of, after surgery, potentially getting blood clots, so they were giving me these weird sort of massaging things that go around your legs, and those keep the blood circulating in such a way that you're not supposed to get blood clots. Not supposed to. Doing that, they're testing stuff, they're poking me repeatedly to take blood tests to make sure things are trending in the right direction. And then eventually they say, you're in good enough shape to go home and recuperate at home, which they did. Surgery was Friday. I went home late Saturday. Saturday night was kind of tough at home. I had problems with getting to the bathroom on time because I'm using a walker to get from my bed all the way down the hall to where the bathroom was. And that was not a pleasant experience. So I found myself trying to change my clothes, and I was reaching up to get a new pair of shorts to put on, and I somehow lost my step or lost my balance, and I fell backwards. Fortunately, I did not hit my head, and they even checked anyway, so there's no concussion. There hasn't been any concussion in any of this. But I felt so unsteady and so uncomfortable with what was going on that I called on my family and I said, call 911. Let's just have these folks get me out of here and back to the hospital. We got to figure out if there's something else wrong. And again, that was the right call. I may have saved my own life on that one. As we got into the ER, and after some testing, they discovered that my white cell count was way too high, and that implied an infection. They didn't know where the infection was, so they started treating for it anyway. So they were doing that, and they discussed it with the doctors, and it turns out I ended up getting, when you're in the hospital, you have all these doctors visiting you, but you have a primary who's in charge of the overall process. Turns out when I came back to the hospital, I got the same primary. So that was good. There was a continuation of my case, and he was familiar because I had just left. So basically what they ended up doing was putting me in what they call the sepsis unit. Sepsis is an infection that, if you don't catch it fast enough, can kill you. I'm here talking to you. So they caught it in time. So the next day in the hospital was mainly pushing a bunch of liquids through me to make sure that everything flushed out properly and that I stayed hydrated. But it did make me urinate a lot, which was uncomfortable. And when you can't get out of bed to do it, there's devices that help. But they got me in that bed. They were doing more and more blood tests to try and figure things out. And then somebody thought to check and see if there were blood clots anywhere. So I went out for a CT scan where they scanned my chest, and they found that I had blood clots in my lungs, which is why I'm speaking a little bit funny right now. Also because I have a collar on while I'm talking to you. But so as soon as they found that, and despite the general wisdom of after a surgery, you don't take blood thinners for a bit, because those blood thinners can make you bleed and internally or something like that, and it's not a good thing. But as soon as they found the blood clots, it's like we can't have these moving and blocking the wrong places. So what they do is they use the blood thinner to coat these clots so that they can't get any bigger. And then once you get enough of that, you get them coated well enough, then the body takes over and it takes care of crushing or disassembling or however it does it. It slowly gets rid of the blood clots. So that was getting under control. Meanwhile, I was still sick. I still had some sort of infection. I don't know that it was the blood clots that were the infection or if there was something else going on. So they were giving me antibiotics to take care of that. So what it amounted to was like 3 or 4 days in the hospital of them pumping me full of stuff. And I got out. I got released with what they call a therapeutic state. Basically, I can go home and take pills by mouth instead of having IVs plugged into me. So it's nice to have my arms back. But I got home, and for the last couple of days, I've been doing fairly well. The bathroom issue is less of a problem now. It's getting better and better as I go. I still feel kind of sick. I still feel achy. I have pain medications for that. As a matter of course, from the operation, I'm not allowed to take NSAID medications, NSAID, which is ibuprofen or Motrin, if you're specific on it, or Aleve, or some other ones. So what I can take is Tylenol, and if the pain gets bad enough, I do have an opioid. I really want to be careful about the opioids. I do not want to get addicted. So I'm doing everything I can to avoid them, but when the pain gets big enough, I take a half a pill. And I mean, if it gets big enough, I could take the other half if I really needed, but so far I haven't. So that's kind of where I am. Last couple of days have been just recuperating at home. And tonight, for the first time, I saw the physical therapist who came in and watched me as I transferred from my walker to a chair and talked to him. And he said right now his major concern is making sure that I'm safe at home before I try and get out for anything. I do have people to help me get to the doctors. I've got a follow-up with my primary set for Monday, which is 3 days from now as I record this, and with the surgeon 2 days after that. So that's kind of catching you up on where I am right now. Feeling a little bit off, a little weak, but I can always go climb into bed and rest. But the other thing has been that all the downtime I've had in the hospital, for me, I'm one of those people that when I try to go to sleep at night, my brain wants to go from one topic to the other, to the other, to the other, and I can't get to sleep because it won't stop. What I found that does help is having a problem to solve and concentrating on that problem. And it doesn't have to be a problem like depression or something like that. I'm talking more like an engineering problem or a math problem that I haven't been able to crack. Something like that. Concentrating on that. If I keep concentrating on it, eventually my body goes to sleep. And so it also helps me with design work. I can come up with an idea for some item that lights up and is powered by batteries, or it's rechargeable somehow or something like that. And I'm trying to decide what shape should it be, what size circuit board should I be using, what components are going to go on that circuit board. I mean, what kind of circuits am I using, or am I using pre-made circuits and just inserting them into it because it would just be reinventing the wheel. All of these details that go into a design, I can think through while I'm trying to go to sleep. The problem is I've had so much downtime, I've got so many of these ideas in my head that the only way to solve it now was to start this document, this log of what I'm going through, so that I can get that out of my head and then start getting the design ideas out of my head. So there's going to be another set of blogs coming up that will be the design work, and it's not going to be medical. And so for the people that don't care for the medical and you want the design work, that's coming. So I'm going to start coming up with some of that stuff. I'm going to start detailing some of the ideas that I have. I won't be able to do videos the way I was doing them, but I can take this audio file. I can run it through some post-processing and give it a thumbnail and upload it. That is the plan for now, is to get some of that going. I do have some stuff that has arrived for some projects, and I will try to get some actual videos, but they're going to have to be very simplified. So that is the plan. I have been wanting to do this for a week now, and I haven't gotten to it. So I'm just really happy to be sitting here able to do this. And thank you for coming along for the journey on this. I'm okay. I will be even better. And stay tuned for any and all updates on this, but also stay tuned, and we will have some design work over on the design channel, and maybe I can figure out a way to do the tutorials over in Bite-Size Engineering in this format. I want to keep releasing content. I have ideas, and that's one thing that's going to keep me sane in this whole process. I'm looking at 6 months, probably. I mean, give or take, there's no way to predict that far out, but probably 6 months to be fully back to normal. So there we are. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. or hear you on the next one.